I'm Mike with House on the Mend, and in episode 3 of our Work, Travel, Van Build series, where we are outfitting this 2018 Ram Promaster 2500 high roof, we're going to be installing these rear passenger seats for the kids on this steel pedestal that I fabricated, complete with full extension drawer slides and USB charging ports. So let's get started.
House on the Mend.
These very comfortable seats have adjustable spring-loaded shock absorbers which are built in, along with armrests and seat belts. They're actually tractor or forklift seats made by Vevor, and they are available on Amazon. Click the link in the description below for the entire set of measurements as well as current pricing. Oh, speaking of clicking, please hit the thumbs up below as well. I can't stress enough how helpful that simple gesture is to the channel. It tells the algorithm that people enjoy this video and it should be suggested to more viewers like you. Well, let's unbox one of these seats and I'll show you the packaging and setup, and then I'll show you how I fabricated this pedestal out of common tube steel. So the seat comes folded down with the armrests disconnected. So there is a small amount of assembly to be done. And this guy's heavy, weighing 76 pounds. All right. I like this little styrofoam cover over the dial here. And right in here we have the instructions, and then these are the plastic covers for the armrests. Here's the lap belt. All right, over on the left-hand side, there's a lever that you pull up, and that is to adjust the seat. So there's a wide range from like straight up to about right there. So that's quite a recline, if you see that. This headrest is not adjustable, it just comes out. So it either slides in like that or comes all the way out, but not actually adjustable for height. So to get the plastic off is quite a pain. You actually have to remove the screws in the back to take the cushions off, because the plastic has been wrapped around and stapled with the same staples that the upholstery is secured with. There we go. That's quite a bit of work just to remove some plastic. All right, there's all the plastic off. Now I will say, while it's a pain that you have to remove all the cushions to get the plastic off, it is kind of neat how easily these cushions come out. If you need to deep clean them because something got spilled by the kids and the drink went down here and it's pooled up on the bottom and leaking out the sides, you can easily take this cushion off and clean up. Or if in the eventuality that this cover wears out or tears, it can be, you could put some foam down here on this side and then reupholster it just by taking it off easily and stapling on some new upholstery. All right, the armrest installation is pretty straightforward. You've got this adjustable up and down slots cut in this piece of metal, and then this guy, once it's in place, will pivot up or down into use. These two bolts here, one is a nut, one is a bolt. They're both 1/2 inch, which is nice. All right, once I'm sure I like the height of the armrests, I'll cinch them down, and then they come with these nice plastic covers that just click into place at a little open hole there on the side. So that's for a little bit later. The lap belt is very standard. It's adjustable on the right hand and it clicks into place on the left. Tightens down, stays tight, no problem. Those are both bolted down on the side right by your hips. So as you could probably tell from the thumbnail, this is what we came up with. We are on the driver's side, behind the driver's seat. This is going to be a window. There's going to be another window on the sliding door. The seats are going to be a total of 47 inches from armrest to armrest. There'll be about an inch or two in between the two seats. We're going to do a 10-inch lift, which is simulated by these two crates, and that'll give us a seat height of this low or this high. We had the girls come out here and sit, and they were both pretty comfortable. Eventually we'll have a swing out table where they can eat or do schoolwork or play games. So the key when I build the frame underneath is to make it so we can still utilize the lever to move the seat forward and backwards. I want to be able to move the seat forward enough that the girls can recline these seats back and then put a pillow and lay against one of these frames and the window. And I think that will add some comfortability during long drives. Now, for the frame, I am going to use this 1 1/4 inch by 1 1/4 inch box steel. It fits perfectly right in between the channels of the floorboard, which is actually about 2 inches wide. So I could have gone with 1.5 inches or up to 2 inches. This was available at my local store, so I'm going to go with it. And the key is going to be to get underneath the van and find out what point I'll be able to mount such a frame at. I've already been under there, and there's definitely some parameters we have to take into account. Mostly how far against this wall we can go, and then there is the muffler running through this area about where my feet are, and there's heat shielding down there. After determining the height I wanted to have the seats at, I cut out the pieces for the front and rear face frames, which are identical. I then joined the two face frames together with cross supports long enough for the mounting rails of the seats and fitting within 2 low spots in the floor. The upper cross supports are flush with the tops of the face frames, so the sheet metal skins will easily cover the top and sides. For the bottom supports, I did something a little different. Now I'm going to have 2 pull-out drawers here, so when it came time to do the bottom supports, I knew they had to be elevated because of the corrugated metal floor in the van. So what I did is I raised them up so that they were just at the top of the bottom rails here that are going to sit in the lower depressions of the corrugated metal. And by raising those up that high, that allows the full extension drawer slides to be mounted right to those bottom support rails. All right, I got the frame set in here temporarily, and I got the 2 seats resting on a piece of pegboard, and that allowed me to center the seats to these window openings. So as we've talked about, this frame here and this sheet of metal are all coming out eventually for the window. But while it's here, it gave me a perfect opportunity to center the headrests in between the center support and each side of the window opening. So the way I did that was I reclined the seats back as far as possible and then just made a little mark with the center line of the headrest and measured across to get them lined up. Now, that's not going to be centered on this opening nor centered on the frame itself, but that's okay because I'm utilizing the most amount of room for the drawers as possible. So the measurement that I came up with for the length is 46.5 inches, and that corresponds to the distance between these 2 pieces of aluminum that I did for the subfloor, and then I have that sheet of plywood that comes across here. So that works out perfect, and it maximizes the under seat storage space. It's going to give us plenty of room right here for a USB port as well as a drink holder. There'll be room over here for a drink holder as well, be it off to the side or mounted right on top, whatever I can find online. And this seat, by being centered here, gives just enough room from the driver's seat that you don't feel like it's encroaching on you. All right, so once I had those seats centered, I was able to come down here with a Sharpie and mark the center line for these rails here, which we'll use to bolt the seats down to the frame. And now that I have all those marked out, it's time to weld in those final pieces. All right, I've got all 4 cross supports welded in and ground down smooth, perfectly lined up with the seat rails. I've got the seat rails slid forward a couple inches so that I can get access with a Sharpie in there to mark them. And I am going to drill these 4 holes up front first. I'm going to attach the seats to the front bolts, then slide the seats forward so I can get an exact mark in the back, right centered on these rails. And I want to do that first before I attach this nice big piece of sheet metal, so there's no way that I'm off in lining up the seats with the cross supports. Then after I attach the sheet metal, I can come back from underneath and drill through the sheet metal, no problem. All right, we're bolting down our seats so we can slide them forward and get our back marks. The bolts that I'm using for this project to attach the seats to the rails and the frame to the body are grade 8 bolts. And those typically come in this kind of anodized gold color, but more specifically they have 6 radial marks on the head. And these are high strength bolts. In fact, they have a tensile strength of 150,000 pounds per square inch. So this is what you want for this kind of a project. Most bolts that you can buy at Home Depot or Lowe's or a hardware store are going to be grade 5 or lower. And they're fine for most projects, but I want to be really safe and get these real high strength ones. I found these at Ace Hardware. They had a great selection. I'm using 5/16 for the seats up here because this little cove that the bolt fits into is pretty shallow, and this one just fits in there. I'm going to use bigger bolts down here for the actual frame. I have nylon lock nuts as well as the washers that are in the same grade 8 category. All right, now we'll lift up this handle, slide them forward, and that'll give us a perfect spot back here to mark for the rear holes. All right, so I've got all the holes drilled and I've got the bolts all test fitted through the frame and then down through the base of the van floor. So what I did is I got under the van and I looked and I referenced everything off one of these mounting point holes, and I took my measurements from under there based off of that little mounting point hole, and that gave me something to look at and reference to see where I could make my holes for the frame. And then I made this little card and then came up here to the frame, marked all that out and drilled the holes. And then once they were drilled, I set it in place and then marked the area for each of the holes, and that is good. One thing I want to say is this floor is very thin metal. It's thinner than this box steel, so I would recommend you get at a minimum, say an extra washer like this guy to distribute the weight and the force across there a little bit. In fact, if you have small pieces of plate steel or something that you want to drill holes through to widen out so that you're not having all the force, say if you get in an accident or something, right there on a little piece of sheet metal. That would probably be a good idea. All right, now you might be thinking, hey, with the bolts there, isn't that going to impede the drawers? Well, it's actually not, and it occurred to me that once we get this installed, we're actually going to be putting our insulation back and then our subfloor back and then eventually also some sort of flooring that's typically about 1/4 of an inch. So we actually have this much clearance from those bolts. And so when I come to make the drawers, I'm actually going to make them a little shorter than what the perceived 1/4 inch flooring is going to be. So say right about there, and then I'll have a piece that's the same color and everything that skirts down below like this. So the drawer will pull out, and then there'll be almost like a toe kick, but it'll be flush. All right, so the next thing to do is take all these bolts out now that we've test fit them, and I'm gonna take mineral spirits and clean off the top of the frame so that I can affix the sheet metal to the top. And then I'm also gonna take Bondo and mix it up, and since this front face will be seen when we pull the drawers out, I'm going to take Bondo and fill in around all the welding points so that I can sand that really smooth and we won't see these little imperfections in the metal. So let's do that next. I want to have enough to sand, but not so big that it's going to take me forever to sand. My jigsaw made fast, clean cuts in the sheet metal. I'm only covering the top and 2 sides, leaving the rear exposed. Now, welding thin sheet metal with my skills usually spells disaster, so instead I chose to adhere the skins with a 2-part epoxy. This also prevents any rattling from the vibration when the van is running. Next, it was time to make the drawers. I chose 1/2-inch cabinet grade birch plywood for the boxes and drawer faces. So I'm going to be using a semi-transparent white paint for the front of the drawers and that bottom base that we talked about. I made a bass guitar with the kids, a DIY project, and I really loved the way this semi-transparent paint kind of showed the grain coming through. And I want to repeat that on these drawers. So I want to have the grain an exact flowing match all the way through the project. So I'm going to cut the bottom strip and then cut the drawers, the 2 faces of the drawers out of this one continuous piece so that the grain matches up. And when we're all done, it's going to look just like this. And so now we have an 1/8 inch gap between the bottom kind of toe kick and the actual drawers. And then we have an 1/8 inch gap between the drawers. And that'll be some nice lines for the cabinetry work. I protected the boxes with 2 coats of clear satin polyurethane. I used wood glue and finishing nails to assemble the boxes. All right, I'm so excited to show you the progress. So after painting the entire box, which you saw. I then assembled the cabinet drawers, and I'm putting the last one in right here. Good. And they're soft close, which means they have springs in there that'll hold them in place once they're closed. So I'm hoping that will be enough to hold it shut while we're driving. If not, you can always put marine latches in after the fact. We still need to put the two front faces on those drawers, but we'll get to that. I cut out a piece of the original foam insulation, a perfect rectangle that went underneath here, so that's still insulated. And then I cut from the original piece this one that is about 4 inches wide that goes in behind it. Same thing with the subfloor piece that goes in there. Then I cut these little guys to fill in here for when we eventually put in flooring or put 80/20 cabinetry over them. Then, so there'd be more support for this field of insulation, I made this cross piece here, and I made another one up here that's going to run across and make a nice clean front edge, so that when we put down the foam insulation, it butts right up against that piece of aluminum there, and then we're going to have a piece coming across here, and all that will help to support the flooring. There we go. All right. And then I got these off of Amazon here. These little guys are USB ports, a double USB port, DC. So when we wire this up, we'll wire it up to 12 volts DC. Now the nice thing about this one is, unlike most of them where you have to drill a large hole into the wall, or in this case into this metal facing, and then screw in from behind, this one is flat and flush mount. So you just pop off this little cover plate here. There's 2 screw holes. So all I'm going to have to do is drill one hole, small, for the wires to go through, and then I'll be able to use machine screws, just like I did when I mounted these full extension drawer slides into the metal. That'll hold right there. It's got a nice rubber cover on it, so that if the girls spill anything, and hopefully this is closed, then it should be protected. All right, here's the drawer face. So now how do we make sure that we get a nice reveal on the bottom, and then it's not off to one way or the other, but level with that bottom piece of trim? Just like they do when they put up shiplap, they use a nickel distance. So I'm just going to take 2 nickels, line them up, or excuse me, set them down, and then I'll set this face right on top of those. Now I've already pre-drilled for the handles, as you recall, so I'm going to use those screws, or excuse me, those holes, as the spot where I'm going to put some screws in. So I've got my works drill with the drill bit and the driver. I just love this thing for medium to light duty kind of stuff. Take a wood screw, just going to temporarily hold it in place right here. Now I can slide that out, and I can attach the face from inside the drawer with these screws. I'm going to take my little drill driver, switch it over to drill bit, pre-drill those holes, switch over to the driver bit, and start sending these home. pounds. Now, we're affixed from the back. We can now take off these screws. Good. And we'll drill right through those holes. So that we can attach these handles. Look at that, that is great. So on both ends of this frame, where the box steel comes to the end, there's these open spaces here that I'm gonna cover up with these plastic filler pieces I got off of Amazon. So they just go right in there like that, soft mallet. And that dresses it up really nice. And here's the final product. I keep a large organizer in this drawer for grocery shopping or going to the beach. And this drawer over here has various ratchet and tie-down straps. We took a recent trip to California for a softball tournament, and my daughter and her teammates sat back here very comfortably. Justice gave her teenage stamp of approval at one rather bumpy portion of the highway when she said, "These shocks are crazy, Dad." So if you found this video helpful, will you please give it a thumbs up? It really helps the algorithms to start suggesting it to more viewers like you. Also, please consider subscribing. I'm working really hard to put out good quality content, tool reviews. As long as this van build, there's a lot more videos to come. And it's free. All you have to do is log in with your account and click the subscribe button on YouTube, or if you're on Rumble, the follow button. It really helps the channel. Now, I'm going to leave a link to the seats, the USB port, and also these end caps that I used on the frame. Now, full disclosure, those will be Amazon affiliate links, so if you click on them and end up making a purchase, it won't cost you a thing, but I do get a small reward at the end of the month. The rest of the items that I use for this build are all available at any hardware store. Now, our next video is going to be installing the windows. There's one on either side behind the driver's seats, as well as on the back doors. I'll show you where I got them and how I installed them. But before we go, we've been keeping track of the running costs as well as the weight that we've added to the vehicle, since it has a weight limit of about 4,000 pounds. So the two seats were $668 with tax, and they add 152 pounds. I used 8 1¼ inch 4-foot long pieces of tube steel that cost me $336 and added 33 pounds. The sheet metal was $28, adding 6 pounds. The birch plywood was in 2 different thicknesses, 1/2 inch for the face and the boxes, and then 1/4 inch for the bottom. Those cost $54 and added 19 pounds. The drawer slides were $20, adding 4 pounds. And the paint and polyurethane costs about $20. That gives us a subtotal of $1,126 for this project alone, adding 214 pounds. If we add the cost and weight from episodes 1 and 2, we are running a total of $2,181, adding 469 pounds. So I'd love it if you leave a comment below, ask any questions, anything I haven't covered. Until next time, thank you for watching.